Welcome to SandCity Sport on this Wednesday edition. Welcome. We start off, got to get everything in order. I forgot an important item per usual. Forgetful. So let me just get that and then let me get my watch so I can keep time and we'll get into the episodes. How's everybody out there doing? Okay, we're back and in full effect. Hope everybody is doing well. Certainly tremendous amount to get to, specifically for the Knicks faithful. And an individual like me who returned to the camp when true leadership was brought in. And it's no secret that leadership has been removed. Yes, indeed. Facebook is good. All right. IG. Yes, sir. Twitter. Yes, sir. Okay, wrong channel. So we got to switch channels. All right, folks, we have the items. A watch was missing, and all of the socials are up. Wednesday night, SandCity Sports. Thrilled to be with you. We're going to get it moving and grooving on this edition. Yes, sir. Let's make sure our volume is where it needs to be. A little bit lower. Let's get it back right where it's got to be. SandCity Sports, you know what time it is. Let's get into it. Hey! What are the Knicks thinking? Oh my goodness. Talk about an exit on Saturday. You had me reeling. What do I have to deal with Tuesday? Hey. Yep. Run that back. SandCity. Wednesday edition. N.B.A. Finals. Hey. Coming off tomorrow. SandCity's going to be with you for a little bit. Certainly have to discuss the unexpected game maker. My coach, Tom Thibodeau. No. Yes. Bring the relieving my coach Tom Thibodeau of his duties yesterday. Myself, returned to the Knicks fold because of my coach Tom Thibodeau. So now I'm asunder. I don't, I'm almost a man without a country. Shout out to No Country for Old Men, right? That's how the Cape Cod kid feels, right? That's how I feel right now. You know, heard some talk today and some previous talk that's kind of got me thinking, maybe possibly but let's remove the preview. We're going to touch base, see how everybody out there is doing in television land. Facebook is what it is, IG is what it is. Okay, I see the Uno on Twitter. Appreciate you. YouTube and Twitch are what they are. Please let me know, jump into the chat in terms of your feelings, this, that, the third. We're talking finals. We're talking Thibs. We're talking NBA free agency. Um, you understand? So join in or join out. That's what the late, great Bernie Mac would say. Join in or join out. You are more than welcome. See the Suns making a move, hiring Cavaliers assistant. So hiring somebody from the Kenny Atkinson tree. Feedback and reaction. Pacers Rick Carlisle, elite coach, saying thought the Thibs firing was fake AI. There's certainly some fake AI out there. It's for sure. Got to watch out for the artificial intelligence. It's new and at times unproven. All right, so let's dive in to this topic and go from there. Yes. It's an unfortunate topic. I don't want to No, I just need I don't need the reaction. I just need the imagery. Go with the breaking from Shams. Let's go ahead and share this screen and get it moving and grooving. Right? Josh Hart retweeting, surprised. Like many others, you don't know what has been said and what's going on behind the scenes. Clearly, conversations took place, players were involved, and it's amazing. Signs a 3-year extension last year, you know, dethroned a dynastic Boston Celtics team. And let's remember, the Knicks were in control of that series long before Jason Tatum went down, right? Boston wins the one game at home with the energy, enthusiasm, and then the Knicks have their one overarching, you know, uh, victory against the Celtics in the playoffs. Had game one in hand until the very, very, very end, and just like that, right, folks? Okay, the probability of the Knicks losing game one was minuscule. All right, there's no shame in me saying I went to sleep and got ready for the next day, stunned when I heard the news, you know, at work, talking to my colleagues who are also big time sports fans. that the Knicks lost that game. I want, got this in hand. Let's go. Keep it moving. And then you put yourself on a slippery slope to where the Knicks found their season, couldn't get right in game 2, battled back, did what they needed to do in game 3, couldn't hold the line in game 4, stood tall in game 5. Game 6 was right in the balance. Let's remember, folks, down 4 at halftime. That was the last episode. I had tremendous issues with the second half rotation. Didn't know who the heck was coaching the team. Wondering why all of a sudden Tom Thibodeau wants to give in to analytics and not trust his gut. Going with his guys, his core group. This preposterous narrative that we have. Oh, the Knicks core group played over 800 minutes. No, core group played over 400 minutes, and they want to throw all of this hogwash around. We are one sky shot back rim bucket in game 1 from the Knicks, in all likelihood and probability, being in the N.B.A. Finals. So what are we even talking about? Now you want to talk to me about starting rotations and how long guys are playing together. It was the starting rotation that came back from 20 points down on 2 straight occasions to beat the Boston Celtics. It was the starting rotation that came back after getting manhandled in game 3 and won game 4 in convincing fashion. Let me see. The Boston series had to go 6. I'm dating, because the Celtics won game 3. Knicks came back and won game 4, right? Celtics won 3. Knicks won game 4. That's when Tatum went down. Boston rallied in game 5, and the Knicks, slammed the door in game 6. So the Boston series was 6 games. You get a little forgetful here. I'm dating myself at times. I get on my high horse, and sometimes, you make mistakes. It is what it is. You take a licking and keep on ticking. Okay? So before we even think about the future, just need to address these narratives again. Like when Luka gets traded, there's questions about his conditioning, and we don't know if we're going to give him the Superman. Just absolute nonsense. Just nonsensical arguments. All right, that's not even a word. Had nothing to do with Luka's conditioning. He's a super max player, all NBA. He's on a historic trajectory. It's not about his defense and how, he gets the job done, period, end of story. Wasn't supposed to take the Mavs to the finals last year. Wasn't supposed to have the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals before that. Wasn't supposed to completely obliterate the Clippers in the bubble, who were supposed to have the 2 elite wing defenders and a stacked roster, which they did. Luka gave them the business. All right? He's been that guy, as they say, him. I always like to use that, terminology. He's been that dude from day one. And now all of a sudden these secondary things are coming up. So I feel the same way in this narrative about Tom Thibodeau. These arguments are non-arguments. It's the same thing for me. We're going back to Terry Francona when he was ousted unnecessarily, in my view, from the Boston Red Sox. We're talking about chicken and beer in the locker room. For the sports fans out there, the Boston sports fans who, even though we're out here in tourist town, USA, proud that Boston's considered the number one sports city in the United States of America. Let's go back. If we're talking about Terry Francona, and we're talking about beer and chicken in the locker room, okay? They had 2 outs and 2 strikes with multiple batters. I believe that was a game 5. And I think they were playing the Orioles. The other team just kept getting hits. 2 outs, 2 strikes, multiple at-bats in the deciding game. And guys squeak out base hits. Red Sox go ahead and get that 3rd strike, get a pop-up, close the deal, finish the series. We're not hearing about beer and chicken in the locker room. And also, what did Terry Francona do after he left the Red Sox? He brought prosperity to Cleveland. Having Cleveland in the mix multiple years. All the beer and chicken and no. You blew a game you had in the palm of your hands, just like the Knicks did in game 1. And now we want to add and pile and we don't know and all the rest. No. You just lost a game you should have won. I think about Coach Bud. Yes, the Bucks had some disastrous first-round losses. Happened on multiple occasions, and that's unacceptable. All right, but you don't move off of Coach Bud unless you have that guy, an elite coach. And this is the intersection that I'm going to go to right now in terms of my coach, Tom Thibodeau. The reports that I've heard, some of the names that I'm hearing, for me, Jay Wright, who I think could coach in the N.B.A. We've seen college coaches, thinking about Billy Donovan, come into the N.B.A. and make moves. Say what you want to say about Billy Donovan with the Chicago Bulls. Billy Donovan's first year in the N.B.A., he went head-to-head with Greg Popovich and his 67-win Spurs team and sent him packing. The 73-win Golden State Warriors team, down 3-1. That's first-year NBA coach Billy Donovan. He can coach at all levels. I see Jay Wright in that fashion, although, Jay Wright, who at Villanova and obviously La Cosa Nova is heavy in New York, so it makes sense from that capacity. But Jay Wright did leave college basketball because the NIL revolution. Can't fault him for that, but the recognition that you don't have the same controls in the NBA that you did in college before this transfer portal NIL Wild West. So there would be a learning curve for Jay Wright. Okay, Billy Donovan, they're different coaches, both extremely capable coaches. Technically, the whole 9 yards, relationship-wise, But Jay Wright, that was fascinating to me. All right, because now he'd be his first time coaching in the NBA, so you don't know about that. But coach plenty with Team USA. Again, I have him in the Billy Donovan mold as somebody that would transition into the NBA and could do it. Now the other name, and I'm going to get to, because that doesn't mean that I'm, again, I'm no country for old men right now. Right? Our sheriff is counting out 25 years old. Hard to believe. Grandfather was a lawman. Father, too. Me and him was sheriff up at the same time. Him up in Plano and me down here. All right, so I ain't going to go too deep. Shout out to No Country for Old Men. Had to watch that movie a couple times. First time I was I wasn't, it won Best Picture. I was like, what the heck, there's all this rogue violence and Then I watched it again. I went back and I watched it, and I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Every like when you take in a piece of art the first time, you just like, this is what? And then you go back and like that's when I went back and I watched No Country for Old Men the second time. Then I understood. Yes, it was deserving of Best Picture. Cinematography is just absolutely unreal. And then particularly as I get older, that movie just continues to speak to me more and more. First go around with but sold on No Country for Old Men. Right? So I'm just at a loss, personally. Returning to the Knicks fold was a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Me coming back into the Knicks fandom after leaving, post 94, really. The Houston loss in 94, right? I'm not proud of this, to my fandom, but then when MJ returned and the patent leathers returned, then I got on the MJ bandwagon. Okay, not super proud of that, but it is what it is. But Tom Thibodeau being my coach, coming from the Pat Riley, Jeff Van Gundy tradition, coming to the Boston Celtics in 2008 after Jeff Van Gundy was fired for no good reason. Now let's take a look at this. Jeff Van Gundy was fired for no good reason in Houston and after the 07 season, and Danny Ainge swooped right on in and picked up Tom Thibodeau. Now, a storyline that came to me today and just in talking with my colleagues is I feel like Brad Stevens should be right there trying to swoop in and bring Thibs to the Celtics, because I've been consistent on this. Go back, check the receipts. Joe Mazzulla needs help. He needs help. Joe Mazzulla is not a stand, you know what I mean? And nor should he be. Now we're going to bounce back over to the Knicks because the name that I heard today made me step back. Jay Wright, you got my attention now. I'm not going to talk about, because my allegiance, but the name that got my attention today is Jason Kidd. That's the coach that I could live with the Knicks going to. Now, that being said, I would want my man Thibs to get the job in Dallas. Yes, I said that. Oh, Cooper Flag. Thibs is an N.B.A. head coach. Another narrative. Well, Thibs, and he's just going to... But what? We played the clip of Gilbert Arenas. Bubba what? Bubba who? Jigga what? Jigga who? Talking about my coach as an assistant. This man is an assistant. 2 straight 50-win seasons. Jalen Brunson and Cat starting in the All-Star game. Jalen Brunson and Cat making all N.B.A. People are saying a lot of things. I understand it. But the word assistant and my coach, Tom Thibodeau, we're talking about the North and the South Pole. What are you even saying, folks? And again, there's a lot of Monday morning reconstructive narratives and storylines out there. Where were the Knicks before Thibs? Okay, so Leon, you made this move, talking about winning championships. The Jason Kidd is intriguing to me. But so let me just come back to Jason Kidd and why that would work. I'm not furious with that, but my man Tom Thibodeau needs to get the Dallas job and return to he's an N.B.A. head coach. It's not even questionable. I'm going to hammer that point down for anybody that might have anything to even think about. I don't care if it's a Wednesday, weekday edition, okay? Even think about the idea. I appreciate we got Top Cat checking it out. Appreciate that very much. Champion, you know what I mean? Folks, appreciate the love and whatever, however you feel about it. You might like what's going on, you might not like it. I'm here for all of it. But as I say, this is my passion project. This is from the heart. I love to do it. Um, and so this is what I do. But just like anything else that I put my mind to and try to, I'm here for the conversation, good, bad, or indifferent. You might not comment, but maybe you just, hey, next time you see me, you say, hey, I didn't like this, and maybe you could do that better. All that is, I appreciate it. I'm going to continue to do what I love to do. I know that much. Uh, but I can always get better and try things, and right. I make mistakes daily. Sometimes you make big mistakes, you make blunders. Um, and you can't always get a get back, or sometimes you just make a mistake and you got to feel the pain and the punishment. That's what it is. So that's a part of it. But for me, you got to get up off the and get up off the canvas is one thing. Now just a quick, aside, because it all flows together, and we're gonna get back to the coaching. But we happen to be studying Nelson Mandela today in class, and so I had to read the students Invictus. Okay, the years are gonna find me bloodied, but unbowed. The years are gonna find me bloodied, but unbowed. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Okay. Solid movie, Invictus, Matt Damon, Morgan Freeman. Check it out. Um, but that came to mind. You got to, especially, that's like daily thing that we have to do. But particularly when the chips are down, right? Another thing Nelson Mandela said: you don't judge me by how many times, how I did in good times. You judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up. That's the judgment. So certainly myself, that resonated. Make mistakes, and you got to just keep on pushing. But vis-a-vis, as far as this passion project is concerned, always looking to get better, always interested in the feedback. So thanks everybody that tunes in when you're able to tune in. Now back to Thibs and back to Jason Kidd, because we got to. I'm gonna go to the Jason Kidd side, okay, and that is because intriguing to me. Not that Thibs needed to go, because it just he didn't need to go, and we could have run it back with this team and won. And you're taking a risk and a gamble making this move. But if you replaced Thibs with Jason Kidd, I feel, and let's just be clear, because Jason Kidd is new to the coaching vis-a-vis Thibs, who's a lifer. But what Jason Kidd has done in Dallas, this is Jason Kidd's an elite coach. That's the long and the short of it. Was gonna give you the synopsis. I'm just gonna, Jason Kidd got his opportunities too early. He got his head coaching job just right when he was done playing, and he wasn't ready. All right, so stop here. He just wasn't ready. But then he humbled himself and took the assistant job. Was the assistant with the Lakers for a number, and he was just an assistant, and he humbled himself. He was an assistant for 4 or 5 years. And that's that apprenticeship, so that when the Dallas, job came open, and let's remember that Mark Cuban didn't want Rick Carlisle to leave, but Rick Carlisle said, Luka needs another voice. And it was a win-win, because Rick Carlisle has now brought prosperity to the Pacers, which was no surprise in my mind, because he's been a good coach since he's been with Detroit in the early 2000s. Rick Carlisle had been a good coach for decades, an elite coach for decades. So I can see why Mark Cuban, who actually knows what the heck he's doing, didn't want him to leave just because he was, going, butting his head with the mercurial superstar and Luka Doncic. Luka, as talented as he is on the court, and that's what I just keep coming back to. All this other stuff you want to talk about, and he's a little bit husky, and he has a chip on his shoulder and he has an attitude. All those things are true about Luka. But different from other players who have those attributes, with Luka from day one, when the bright lights turn on and he gets in between those four lines, okay, he delivers time and again and again and again and again. Is it always pretty? Is there sportsmanship there? No. People go at Luka, he goes right back at them. He's one of the people, he don't suffer fools. He doesn't take slights. People say he goes right back at people, for better or for worse. But bottom line, at the end of the day, he delivers. And so the situation with Jason Kidd, right, got his opportunities too early, humbled himself, did the assistant coaching, the apprenticeship, so that and it was the win-win that we can see now. Carlisle returns to Indiana, builds the Pacers up, which he was passionate about doing, it's inspired to do. And Jason Kidd comes in, and not only does he get through to Luka, which in and of itself is a feat. People, take it for granted. Luka's always had, and that's the thing that's, the issue in LA right now. Luka's always had elite coaches because he came into the league, and Rick Carlisle's his first coach. So, you grow where you're planted. And then J. Kidd comes in after that, and there's a question mark, but Jason Kidd manages to get through to Luka and that team, and they knocked the Phoenix Suns out of the playoffs in the divisional round after the Suns made the finals the previous year in their championship window. They slammed that shut. Okay, and then the Phoenix Suns changed ownership group and made a lot of changes, but they were right there on the cusp of a championship. They were supposed to beat the Dallas Mavericks in the second round, and they didn't. After they had a great season coming off of their championship season, a team on a mission, whose mission and lifespan ended abruptly at the hands of Luka Doncic and Jason Kidd. So Jason Kidd showed you, again, that, hey, I'm a really good coach. And then the ultimate, they bring in Kyrie. So if you thought getting through to Luka was challenging, now you put Luka, who's mercurial and standoffish, and surly, and then you put him with Kyrie Irving, who has all of those attributes times 10. And yet and still, Jason Kidd finds a way to get through to both of them and win the Western Conference. Okay? Before it was all pulled, the rug was pulled out from under him and the entire organization. Jason Kidd as the New York Knicks head coach is intriguing because he's already unlocked Jalen Brunson. That's why I'm not buying the Mike Malone talk. Mike Malone is an up and down, secondary break, running gun coach. That's not Jalen Brunson's game. Jalen Brunson is a half-court, spacing, ISO, crack the paint, start the blender player. He's not a 7 seconds or less player. The effective Jalen Brunson. Now you want to just drag, and throw him in a system where he's just sprinting up, and he doesn't even have the body for that anyway. To just be sprinting constantly up and down the court, up and down the court. But Jalen Brunson, when Luka was hurt, under Jason Kidd's leadership, knocked the number 1 seed Utah Jazz, when the Jazz had Mitchell and Ingles and Gobert, when the Jazz had their stacked teams. So, Jason Kidd, he's a suitable replacement for Tom Thibodeau, I'll say. And then you throw in, because the Knicks now, you've who knows what direction they're going in, right? You bring in Jason Kidd, who's already unlocked Brunson, so he knows he's going to be able to do, that can be reciprocated. But now you talk about possibly the rumors about, Giannis coming to New York. Now there's a coach there he has a previous history with. Didn't go so well in the first go round because Jason Kidd was unprepared. But now that Jason Kidd has come into himself as a coach, the Knicks, being the Knicks, become that much more of a favorable destination. So the Jason Kidd rumblings, Ime Udoka is just smoke and mirrors. There's no way he's leaving Houston after Houston took him in when he needed an opportunity, and he built them up this year into a Western Conference contender. Say what you want to say about the first round. They had them getting the second overall seed in the West is remarkable. All right, so to Tom Thibodeau, I've said it, I'm repeating myself. Don't even use the word assistant and Tom Thibodeau in the same paragraph, on the same page. Right? They just don't go together. All right, it's not a one-to-one comparison. Okay, and I'm not even gonna make this. No, I am gonna make the comparison. Yeah, but talk about Kyle Shanahan called Bill Belichick up to run his defense. Belichick was like, "Thank you, but no, thank you." Considered the greatest coach of all time. I don't work as an assistant. Am I comparing Tom Thibodeau one-to-one to Bill Belichick? No, I am not making that one-to-one comparison. But what I am saying is that, it's just, would the Celtics opportunity be a good situation for Thibs, to just, and rather than going and working for ESPN and then getting his next head coaching opportunity, would going to the Celtics as an assistant for a year be more beneficial? I think it would, because he would have a huge difference, as was noted, on this team that needs coaching. They don't need to go hunting for Giannis. They don't need to get rid of any players. They need to restructure these deals to avoid the second apron as much as possible. But you add Thibs to this staff, and then just immediately it's a different team. Sam Cassell's there doing what he's doing. Right, head coach in waiting. Emil Jefferson's learning the trade. Got a little bit more dues to pay. But the Celtics need a former N.B.A. head coach to come in and help their roster. All right, so is Thibs an assistant? No. If it's between coaching and sitting in an ESPN booth, maybe he chooses coaching before he gets his next head coaching opportunity. But this idea that he's a career assistant now is loony. Folks, again, this episode, let me just go around and appreciate everybody that stopped by and checked in. This Wednesday edition. Not going to dive too deep into the N.B.A. Finals. Glad to get on this episode and make it happen. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But feeling Like I need to tend to a couple obligations, responsibilities. It's been a good day. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of slice of life. We're going to do some slice of life. Then we're going to get up and out of here for this episode. So we're going to come in just under an hour. We'll see. But a few slice of life items. Slice of life. I got to get it going here, man. You go live. You got you go. You do it up. You know what I mean. You got to bring it. Can't anybody care about this, that, and the third. So let's get on point here. Let's get on point here. Start off. Tyler Perry.
Neighborhood that is one of the poorest black neighborhoods in Atlanta, so the young black kids can see that a black man did that and they can do it too. I was trying to help somebody cross. That studio was once a Confederate Army base, and I want you to hear this, which meant that there was Confederate soldiers on that base plotting and planning on how to keep 3.9 million Negroes enslaved. Now that land is owned by one Negro. It's all about trying to help somebody cross. While everybody was fighting for a seat at the table, talking about Oscar so white, I said, y'all go ahead and do that. But while you fighting for a seat at the table, I'll be down in Atlanta building my own. Because what I know for sure is that if I could just build this table, God would prepare it for me in the presence of my enemy. Rather than being an icon, I want to be an inspiration. Thank you, everybody. I want you to hear this. Every dreamer in this room, there are people whose lives are tied into your dream. Own your stuff. Own your business. Own your way. When I built my studio, I built it in a neighborhood that is one of the poorest black neighborhoods in Atlanta, so the young black kids can see that a black man did that and they can do it too. I was trying to help somebody cross. That studio was once a Confederate Army base, and I want you to hear this, which meant that there was Confederate soldiers on that base plotting and planning on how to keep 3.9 million Negroes enslaved. Now that land is owned by one Negro. It's all about trying to help somebody cross. While everybody was fighting for a seat at the table, talking about Oscar so white, I said, y'all go ahead and do that. But while you fighting for a seat at the table, I'll be down in Atlanta building my own. Because what I know for sure is that if I could just build this table, God would prepare it for me in the presence of my enemy. Rather than being an icon, I want to be an inspiration. Thank you, everybody. I want you to hear this. Every dreamer in this room, there are people whose lives are tied into your dream. Own your stuff. Own your business. Own your way. When I built...
Tyler, who's big, own. Okay, you gotta own. I didn't understand. I had a poor dad mentality.
People use that word so loosely.
What does it mean to you?
You have to sacrifice loved ones in order to be great because they don't understand. And that's okay. They don't understand what it means to, like, I am getting up every single day at 5 or 6 a.m. And when I get home after everyone leaves the gym, I'm going to take a nap. So now you're sacrificing your loved ones because you're not spending time with them. And when I wake up, I'm probably going to train again. And then I'm going to have dinner. And then I'm going to bed. And I'm going to do that every single day for a long period of time. Discipline. People use that word so loosely.
What does it mean to you?
You have to sacrifice loved ones in order to be great because they don't understand. And that's okay. They don't understand what it means to, like, I am getting up every single day at 5 or 6 a.m. And when I get home after everyone leaves the gym, I'm going to take a nap. So now you're sacrificing your loved ones because you're not spending time with them. And when I wake up, I'm probably going to train again. And then I'm going to have dinner. And then I'm going to bed. And I'm going to do that every single day for a long period of time.
What does it mean to you?
You have to sacrifice loved ones in order to be great because they don't.
That's wild, talking about the routine. You know, these athletes, that they keep up. You know, Kobe was one big on this, up at 4:30 to go in and train again. And, it goes like Michael Jordan playing 54 holes of golf in a day, play, up in the middle, crack of dawn, play around, go back, rest for an hour, go back out, play another round, come back in, go back out, play another. Just exceedingly talented. But the dedication, the focus on another level as well. Continue on.
Come from, I've always had a discipline and a work ethic that I've had at a young age that I just apply it to everything. Rarely go out reading and trying to reverse engineer how to be successful. Like, how do I start my own production company? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I always felt if other cats was out partying and I was home studying, I would have the edge. If cats was being hung over the night before, I would have the edge if I wasn't. I'll save the best for last. I'm a delayed gratification. I'm that type of person. So like, I'm literally like, all right, I will party later. I work hard now, so the second half of my life, I can do whatever I want. That's been my mentality. It's like, I'm not going to trick off my early years for partying and then worry about struggling, how I'm going to make it, how I'm going to take care of my family, how I'm going to take care of everybody else. That's not going to be me. I'm going to grind it out now. I'm going to set up the foundation so I can enjoy myself later. That's always been my mentality. That works for me. And I've been blessed to be around cats who gave me the game and wisdom and just told me like it is. And I was just open enough to listen. For me, coming from where I come from, I've always had a discipline and a work ethic that I've had at a young age that I just apply it to everything. Rarely go out reading and trying to reverse engineer how to be successful. Like, how do I start my own production company? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I always felt if other cats was out partying and I was home studying, I would have the edge. If cats was being hung over the night before, I would have the edge if I wasn't. I'll save the best for last. I'm a delayed gratification. I'm that type of person. So like, I'm literally like, all right, I will party later. I work hard now, so the second half of my life, I can do whatever I want. That's been my mentality. It's like, I'm not going to trick off my early years for partying and then worry about struggling, how I'm going to make it, how I'm going to take care of my family, how I'm going to take care of everybody else. That's not going to be me. I'm going to grind it out now. I'm going to set up the foundation so I can enjoy myself later. That's always been my mentality. That works for me. And I've been blessed to be around cats who gave me the game and wisdom and just told me like it is. And I was just open enough to listen. For me, coming from where I come from, I've always had
Michael B. Jordan, coming from where he comes from, you can see and sense the be more in him. Why? And gonna finish with JB.
Consequences of greed and capitalism. From the products we use to the rivers we poison. My question is globally, is it clean energy if we leave dirty footprints? Education and awareness is key. A lot of people have a hard time seeing that climate change is affecting our day-to-day lives. They see it as something distant, but the reality that climate change is already here. Our air, our oceans, our forests are already being compromised. These aren't just social media events. We've already seen the fires in California to the hurricanes in the Caribbean. Education and preparation is key. The disruption of ecosystems and environments are imminent. And as a society, because of the awareness, I believe that we are ill prepared. But I'm optimistic because education has the power to transform societies. It always has. It's no coincidence that the solutions to environmental problems and challenges come from places like this and young people and young minds like you all here today. Consequences of greed and capitalism.
JB went in a different direction than I thought, talking about climate change. No lies detected there. Again, the work that he does in Boston. Surrounding education. It's tremendous. So that was good. We'll finish up with Uncle Barry.
History, and to this day, in most of places in the world, there is a cost to challenging the powers that be, particularly if they're abusing that power. And this idea, and I've noticed this among some wealthier folks who, after George Floyd, they were right there, and a bunch of companies were talking about how they cared about diversity and they wanted to do this and they were all for that. And they are mute right now. But what that tells me is it was okay when it was cool and trendy. And when it's not so much. And that, I think, is what we have to, each of us has to examine in our own hearts is all right, we say we're for equality. Are we willing to fight for it? Are we going to risk something for it? We say that we're for rule of law. Are we going to stick to that when it's tough, not when it's easy? For most of human history, and to this day in most of places in the world, there is a cost to challenging the powers that be, particularly if they're abusing that power. And this idea, and I've noticed this among some wealthier folks who, after George Floyd, they were right there, and a bunch of companies were talking about how they cared about diversity and they wanted to do this and they were all for that. And they are mute right now. But what that tells me is it was okay when it was cool and trendy. And when it's not so much. And that, I think, is what we have to, each of us has to examine in our own hearts is all right, we say we're for equality. Are we willing to fight for it? Are we going to risk something for it? We say that we're for rule of law. Are we going to stick to that when it's tough, not when it's easy? For most of human.
So JB finished a little bit more conscientious, finishing with a little bit more conscientious clips, which I don't have a problem with. Jaylen Brown, awesome, speaking to students at MIT, talking about, overarching realities, things that go beyond our flickering images and our highlights, but 21st century realities. Not to be alarmist, but to be informed. So, like that clip by JB and former President Barack Obama, just talking about, hey, just talking the talk and just walking the walk. And walking the walk comes at a cost. Okay, it's going to cost you. And certainly he knows he's been president of the United States. Kind of being the outsider and unsuspecting, to being president of the United States. And things I like about former President Obama is, he kind of carries both of those mindsets. The community organizer driving around the Beetle or Bug, whatever he was driving through the streets of Chicago. He's a very intelligent young person with a name that might have been hard to pronounce. That community organizer that struck when the iron was hot and became president of the United States. So kind of speaks from both of those lenses. All right, folks. So final kicking off tomorrow. Plenty to get to there. This episode kind of just focusing, locking in on Thibs, and as far as I'm concerned, my coach, Knicks fan, shot heard around the world. Woo! Tough hit.